So I decided to go. And when I pulled up, it was completely abandoned, like a town of ghosts. So I checked the note again to make sure I was in the right place. Sure enough, I was.
What'd you do then?
Shh, God. I walked toward it, looking for this mysterious mystery man who sent me this anonymous note. I could immediately feel something was wrong. The air was thick, like the hot breath of death passing through the corridors of this abandoned place. Everything in me was telling me to turn around. Don't go further. Only evil will be found here. But I ignored my instincts. I had to find out who or what sent me this witch's invitation.
Was it really a witch?
No, he's just quoting Carmen.
Who's Carmen?
He's Italian.
The farther into this maze of metal and forgotten rooms I ventured, the more I felt the peril of my situation. Someone was following me, watching me. I could feel it on the back of my neck. And then I turned, and there he was, right in front of me.
Oh my God. What did you do next?
We talked a bit. He's actually a pretty nice guy. Hit it off right away.
An hour for that?
How did he even get you a note?
Oh, there was no note. I just thought that would make for a better story. Also, none of that actually happened. And the guy in question is Justin Robinson. He's in the front, and I hired him.
What?
I told the story kind of like, hey, Mom, I got an F in math. Just kidding, I'm pregnant. Or was it the other way around?
You can't hire people.
Fine, then you tell him.
He's here now?
Go ahead. Break his heart.
I will.
I mean, he did say that this was the best news that he had ever received. But hey, fire him.
I can't just have someone come in because
Said that he was so excited to work with his new family. Said that he loved you most of all.
Oh my God.
You're doing the right thing.
Well,
It worked.
yeah.
You're my best friend.
You're my what?
You're my best friend.
Oh my God, Bammy to the whammy. You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
best friend. All caps.
You're the only friend that I'll ever call best.
You're like Robin to my Superman.
Lock eyes.
I'm looking.
Don't run from this.
I'm not running.
Ever.
I'm staying right here, like a palm tree in a hurricane. Bring it. I'm not going nowhere.
You're a palm tree.
If I was to play a 5-on-5 basketball game, I would just pick you and play 2-on-8 because you're my best friend.
If I had one thing to say on my deathbed, I would say Justin Robinson. And then I would die.
You're my best friend.
Do you want to get Chipotle?
Yes.
You're my best friend.
Welcome to FilmRiot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley. And yes, Justin Robinson is working with us now here at Triumph Films.
He's really good at what he does.
Okay, you won. He's hired.
He's just super talented.
Relax.
He's really good at what he
He
does.
is a talented guy. He has a few of his own short films online. You can find links to those and his social media links in the notes below. He's worked on a few feature films, I think 10 in total, in positions like Grip and AC.
And that's impressive. So,
Could you
I'm
won.
just saying, he's really good. We're lucky to have him. Good job, us.
But today we're talking about music, largely to celebrate the release of our latest music pack. This one is our suspense pack, again scored by Ben Worley. We use this one for the music in the opening sketch. It's available now on our store. Link is here and in the notes, but we'll talk more about that at the end. So, ready, go. The importance of sound can't be emphasized enough. I've talked a ton about good sound quality and how I think sound quality is even more important than the visual, since bad sound is impossible to forgive. But what we're talking about today is the effect it has on your audience, most specifically with music. How you use music or not will completely alter the emotion of your scene. This is such an important fact for me that I write with the music in mind from the very beginning. My short film Tell is a great example of that. I wrote that idea with the music almost being another character, or more aptly, the narrator. And I always create a playlist of the music that I feel feel defines the film before I start writing, so that ends up being all I listen to while I write that project. But mainly, I want to focus on the emotional effect music has on your final film. The wrong choice of music can ruin a scene or alter the meaning to something you never intended. There's a concept in editing called the Kuleshov effect. It's one that Alfred Hitchcock famously explained, which he just called montage or assembly. The general idea is that you can take a shot of a person looking at something off screen, then depending on what you cut to next will determine what you think about that person. So a man looking blankly, then we cut to a woman, he's lusting after her. We take that same shot of the man and cut to food, he's just hungry. That's the basic concept, and it's really a powerful one. I bring this up because I think that music is almost as powerful in that same way. If we take this sequence of Josh looking at Justin, the music playing is going to tell us how he feels about him. Wants to kill him, wants to see him naked, probably.
Ew.
Then let's talk about the silo scene we shot with Josh walking through. We purposefully made it uneventful with Josh barely reacting to anything so that we could experiment with how much the music would change the feel and meaning of the scene. So first we have it with the intended music. But then if we switched it to more heroic, or then maybe comical. So we have each piece of music completely altering the intention of the moment. Or we can even look at the absence of music. In my short film Proximity, it was my intention from the beginning to lead the mud fight without any music. I felt like any music that we added to the scene would over-stylize the moment. I wanted the impact of what this character was forced into to sit with him and the audience without giving them the cheat sheet of what to feel. But why does this work? Let's take a quick break and then we'll take a look at why I think these ideas are so effective.
Hello? I just moved here. I just moved here from South Carolina. I work for FilmRiot. Movies. Gotcha. Action. Parker. Okay.
If you're a budding filmmaker, entrepreneur, innovator, domain.com is a place to go when the next idea hits you. I've said it a million times, the available domain extension list is growing, but you now have the opportunity to name your site and build your brands in ways that was never before possible. Choose from a growing list of 400 plus domain name extensions like .com, .org, .design, and .club. And to give you some lovin', they're giving you 25% off their already affordable prices when you get domain names, web hosting, and email. Just use the coupon code FilmRiot at domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think domain.com.
Logo.
Jumping back in, why does all of this work? Of course, this is my personal opinion based off of what I've learned, but in David Byrne's book, How Music Works, he talks about a UCLA study where they watched brain scans of people that were observing others. For instance, while watching someone do something athletic, the neurons in the brain associated with the muscles that they were seeing the athletes use actually fired. Or when they saw someone frown or smile, the neurons associated with those facial muscles will fire as well. But as the book points out, the most significant thing here is that the emotional neurons associated with those feelings fired as well. We do this because we've evolved an understanding. A smile is happy, a scowl is angry, a kick to the nuts is painful. Because we've learned the meaning behind these things, our brain can mimic and we can empathize. And almost none of this is a conscious decision to relate. They are things that we have picked up over time through correlation. And the same can be said for the music that you use, whether it's capitalizing on the type of music that people correlate with the feeling of love or something more sinister. I know this is very basic and obvious, but just like the Kuleshov effect, once I really started dissecting this basic concept, I was able to choose my music in a more intentional way instead of just by instinct. And it doesn't have to be on the nose either. I mean, sure, you can use a love song for a romance moment, something intense for a suspense moment, and something with a faster tempo to make our hearts race during an action scene, but you could also use something that sounds more calm or happy for a horrific moment. Juxtaposing what we relate with happiness with a terrifying visual could be extremely effective when used right. One of my favorite examples of something like this would be the shootout in Face Off when the little kid is listening to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There's also diegetic versus non-diegetic music. The Face Off scene is actually a mixture mixture of both. It starts with a typical action score, but then moves into the song that the character is actually listening to inside the scene. The action cue would be non-diegetic since no one in the film can hear it. It is just for the audience and it's outside the world of the film. Whereas Somewhere Over the Rainbow would be diegetic. It exists inside the film's world and can be heard by a character. An example of that from my own work would be in Bar Brawl.
Why show hostility?
Having the music play inside the world where the characters could hear it gave it an entirely different tone than what it would have had if we went into more of a standard scored moment, like we did with our hallway fight. Then, in a separate article from Psychology Today, they talk about a study where they took the mall sequence from Minority Report, where John and Agatha are on the run. Throughout the scene, Moon River appears to be playing through speakers inside the mall, living within that scene. And the researchers were curious to see what would happen if they created a version that took this diegetic approach and turned it into a non-diegetic one, but with the same music. The result was, it gave the opposite meaning to the viewer from what the original had. Once quizzed at the end, the viewers scored the original as very intense, and the altered version was scored as being more calm. Even the impression of how long the characters knew each other or the intention toward each other was completely changed. And this wasn't even from different music choice, it was all from changing the music living inside or outside the film's world. So in the end for me, it's all about dissecting why you feel what you do when you hear a sound, then harnessing that to manipulate your audience's emotions.
Logo.
But that's it for today. Again, make sure you check out our new suspense music pack. Ben did a killer job again, and it's a very eclectic pack with tracks sounding a bit on the sci-fi end to murder mystery and so on. There are 8 main themes with scenes to go along with each of them for a total of 31 unique tracks, and of course all the stems broken out so you can customize it to fit your film perfectly. So definitely check that out right here, and of course in the notes as well. And don't miss this coming Monday's episode. We're bringing back Monday Challenge, and we're going to be giving away 1 free track from our new music pack for that challenge, so definitely don't miss that, and I'll see you guys next week when it turns out that he was living in the walls the whole time.